Hello and welcome to our virtual studio tour. My name is Stephen Pritchard and you're joining us at Touchdown Studio Space in Teddington, Southwest London. And this is brought to you in conjunction with Audio Video Pro and ENS Media. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us. So what we've got set up for you today is a very simple rig with just two cameras. We've got one professional broadcast camera, which is what you're seeing at the moment, and we've got a consumer camera as well to show that you can add relatively cheap cameras into these multi-camera Hangouts on air fairly easily. And of course, you don't have to do this in a studio. It helps to have the controlled lighting and sound environment, of course, but you could also, with this type of equipment, set this up on location. And that's one reason that we always like to demonstrate that it can be done with cheaper or smaller cameras. So for example, you could substitute the consumer camera that we're using for the wide picture here, which we'll switch to briefly so you can have a quick look around. We could substitute that for example, a GoPro type camera, or in fact anything else that can output an HDMI signal. So what basically just let in the control room running this, switch to the wide camera, and then maybe if he could pop in and move the camera around a bit, you'll be able to see a little bit more of how the studio looks, and then we can go back to just having a little picture of me talking, which is probably not that exciting. Okay, so we should be on the wide shot now. Just the background behind me at the moment is just set to a white thing. That's called a cyclorama in the trade. You can swap that out for different colors. You can put colored paper backgrounds down if you have a particular corporate color scheme that you want. And of course, probably more interestingly still, you can go for a green screen as well, which is relatively easy to switch over. So we're just switching over to the wide camera now. And if my colleague Oscar here pans it around a little bit, I've given him the awkward tripod today, then you should be able to see kind of a scope of how the studio is set up. So yeah, if you just start off that side, and I will obviously disappear out of shot, but hopefully if you can actually hear this, you'll be able to hear me talking. So one of the things we've been working on recently is to put in some talkback and communication. So if I wiggle my ear here, you can see one of these TV style earpieces in my earlobe. Camera that you're enabled to do is not only to communicate between the control room and the live broadcaster, but also to allow, for example, a producer or a technical director to give commands to the person in the studio and also pass on questions coming in from the public. So of course you can do questions over Hangouts on air by having a laptop in front of you, and you could have various screens set up for questions as well. But one of the safer methods of getting questions to a presenter is actually to read the question out to them into an earpiece, and then they can read the question out to the camera or repeat the question back to the camera for the audience to hear. And that does mean that you're not relying too much on technology, and of course it means you can take questions in over the phone as well, which might be useful for certain setups. So just going back, my colleague's just gone back into the other room, and he's going to switch over to the slightly more close-up camera, so you'll be able to see how that works again. So as I say, this studio setup here is relatively straightforward. We've got two rooms which we use for the broadcasting. And we've got two rooms we use for the broadcasting, as I said. We've got a permanent lighting set up. We've got on-site parking, and we're about Heathrow, which is quite useful if you need to get in or out of the UK that way. So just to say, very, very simple setup that we've put in place today, just two cameras. If you want additional cameras set up, the capacity of these systems is quite flexible. You can go for potentially up to 8 cameras in total, and you can also connect up additional feeds from remote locations over such as Skype for someone just doing a call-in, for example, or a radio type interview. Okay, maybe got some choppy bandwidth there. What you can also do with these things, of course, a Hangout on air, is you can bring the participants' pictures up as well. So if we have live participants taking part in the session, we could click on and have them coming up on the screen as they ask questions. I don't think we've actually got any of those at the moment, but we'll try again and see if we can get a few people to connect up to the Hangout on air directly as participants, and then we can switch them onto the live screen as well. You can have up to 10 participants on the Hangout on air, so of course the presenter is 1. If you're using 2 cameras on 2 laptops for redundancy, that would be 2. So you could realistically look at having 8 participants taking part in a virtual talk show using Hangout on air. But that's quite a lot. 8 really probably who are not in the studio would be about as many as you'd want. The other thing with the Hangout on air is that you do want to have a producer set up to control the Hangout, so that's why my colleague Oscar's run back into the control room. He's got the computer there which can switch between the camera angles and also do things like put titles on the screen, or voting or polling, for example, if we wanted to do that, or indeed get the audience questions. So that's about it for the moment. If you want any further technical information on how this is set up, then by all means drop us an email. You can get hold of me on Google+, Stephen Pritchard, sjppritchard@gmail.com. That's sjppritchard@gmail.com will reach me on Google+, and we will make this available for you to watch as a download later on. Thank you very much for your time.